far as, individuals that are going to be able to run this machine.
So as of today, it's not functional. I mean, the machine is functioning, but it's not functional for our purposes as of today.
Not yet, sir.
It's my understanding that there has to be an administrator for the system, and there's your plan to make the intelligence officer at the jail, they will be the administrator.
Yes, sir.
You also indicated previously, I don't remember if you did this publicly or if it was just an email exchange, but that you're not requesting an increase in any officer salary. That's just going to become part of their normal duties and they're going to be trained on. Is that correct?
It would definitely help if I had one extra officer actually to run the 3 polygons and the live scan.
Separate issue, just with regard to the live scan. So no additional cost. Okay. And you do have space in the facility for the live scan machine.
Yes, sir.
Okay. One point about live scan usage throughout the county, departments charging a fee for to offset sort of the costs associated with live scan. I believe the fee was $200 up to a maximum of $250. I believe that's what it was. I have to set a fee, set a number, and then that will be assessed to the inmates for use or when it's being used. Does that sound about right, Warden?
I'm not exactly sure what the fee is right now.
Okay. I believe Newcastle charges $250, and I believe Elwood was charging $200. So we will have to, under new business, we'll have to discuss the implementation of the fee. Okay. With regard to other old business, the district attorney's office, and I'm speaking, well, as prison board president, I am aware that the district attorney's office has conducted an investigation and concluded an investigation into the jail overdose deaths. Charges are going to be filed against 5 individuals connected to the overdose death at the jail. Those charges have not been filed as of today. I do anticipate filing as soon as my detectives return from training. They're all at a management and supervisor training. Those should be back by the end of the week. So we anticipate charges to be filed either at the end of this week or next week. That's really all the further I can go. You'll have the opportunity to read the contents of those charges when they become public and when they're filed. The affidavits of probable cause will obviously be there. That is all of the old business, unless anyone else has anything else connected to old business. All right. Moving into new business, I want to just touch on this because it is connected to the filing of these criminal charges. I received 2 letters. One was addressed to the district attorney's office, and one was addressed to the Lawrence County Prison Board. I got this today. I got the one for the district attorney on the 17th. I got the one to the prison board today. And this is a notification from a Malloy law firm. And they apparently are the lawyers that represent the estate of Donald J. Walker. That was that was the individual who passed away in the Lawrence County Jail. And they are just providing notice as to who they are and putting me on notice that there's some unanswered questions and they are awaiting the filing of the charges, and hopefully that some of their questions will be answered. If not, obviously this isn't something that they're going to be able to come to the prison board for answers, but additional questions regarding the prosecution, they can come to the district attorney's office, and the information that we can provide to them, certainly we will. This, I would imagine, is in anticipation of a potential lawsuit or litigation, which I will turn over to Attorney Medor as he represents the county and then possibly insurance companies after that. Does anyone have any questions related to this? Okay. I will get a copy of I did not provide a copy of the letter to the prison board that was addressed to me because that was just to the district attorney's office. The one that is addressed to Joshua Leonard, prison board president, that I received today, I will provide a copy of that to the prison. there was, we received a couple citizen requests about questioning and wanting to know if and how money is placed on a prisoner's books. And this came from a concerned citizen. And when I received that, I reached out to the warden and I requested, can you please explain to me how money gets placed on an inmate's books, just so I fully understand it. And the information was related to me that there's a kiosk that is at the facility, and it's set up by we have an independent company, and a person can come in and they can put money through the kiosk onto a particular inmate's books. A second way is to submit a money order to the jail, which in turn would then place money on a inmate's books. Third way is if an inmate has money on them when they are incarcerated, that money then gets placed on their books. And the fourth way is there's actually a 1-800 number. You can call into the 1-800 number, use a credit card, and you can place money on the books. Are those the four ways that an individual or anyone really could put money on someone's books at the Lawrence County Jail?
Yes, sir.
Is it the will or the desire of the prison board to try and somehow expand the ability beyond those four things to put money on the inmate's books?
My answer would be only if it were recommended to us by Warden and his staff. Only at that point would I consider it.
Warden, is there a recommendation on your part for us to consider creating another avenue?
No, sir. I believe that those three ways are all sufficient for individuals to be placing money on inmates' books. I mean, I can't even think of another way that.
Well, that's the thing. I took a look at it trying to figure out what would be another way to do it. So absent a recommendation, does anyone else have any?
There's plenty of ways to place money.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
The fact that you can call a 1-800 number and punch it in seems pretty straightforward to me. But I did want to address the citizens' concerns, and if they have any additional follow-up. Yes, sir.
Chairman, Warden, you can probably answer this. If I wanted to place money on someone's account, could you just explain the process? I mean, would you go over to the jail to do it? How would this work?
Well, you can do it one of the three ways.
Right, but what's the one where you go to the jail?
The one you go to the jail, is kiosk.
There's a kiosk right out front inside the front door. You come to the front door, let them know that you want to put money on an inmate's account. The officer in Central will let you in, and then you on the kiosk machine, and you actually put the inmate's name and number and all that stuff in there, and put the money into the machine, the kiosk machine, and it's placed on the inmate's account.
Is it very difficult to do?
Not at all.
That's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, that's if you want to go to the jail. Now, if you don't want to go to the jail and you want immediate money placed on the books, then you can call the 1-800 number. If you don't want to do that, then you can just send a money order into the jail and it will go on
Okay.
the person's
I mean,
account.
it seems like there's many options. So
That's what I thought too, Commissioner.
Keep it simple.
Okay, if there's no other discussion on that and we have no recommendation from the warden to increase or come up with another way to do it, we can move on. Revenue to the facility. The total revenue collected in 2024 for housing of out-of-county inmates, including juveniles, right now, we are at $802,845. We have an outstanding balance of $73,500. So if we stopped right now and we collected the money, our grand total in revenue is $876,345. I believe at the beginning of the year, the jail had budgeted $800,000 in expected revenue. So we, assuming of course we can collect the outstanding balance, which past practice and past performance has indicated that these other counties that are housing their inmates here are going to pay. No one has tried to default or renegotiate or anything. We are in excess of that amount, and in October, November, December should be monies in addition to what we have already received. We do have right now 3 juveniles in the Lawrence County Jail, 1 from Washington County, 1 from Mercer County, and 1 from Westmoreland County. We are generating $1,600 a day to house those 3. For the year, our total is $532,800 has been billed this year for housing of juveniles in the Lawrence County Jail. I think what we need to do is I would recommend to the prison board that we request of the warden an economic feasibility study. Nothing, really labor intensive, but give us the costs that it's costing us to run a juvenile detention facility. If the costs are greater than what we are earning, then obviously we need to take a hard look at what we're doing here. If we're generating more money, well then it makes perfect sense to continue the program. But I think that we've reached a point where we've gone along pretty far, that we have a good sample size to see what are we dealing with, and we should be able to forecast our expected costs in the future and understand what costs we've already incurred, and then we can take a hard look at it for the prison board. So if the prison board is in agreement with that, I would like to request that the board would give us a cost analysis of money in, money out associated with the housing of juveniles, not the housing of adult prisoners, because that's something that you do normally. And quite frankly, the rate for housing an adult is $50, whereas the juveniles is substantially more, but require more to house a juvenile. So
We also take inmates in from PTS, the prison transport system, and we do charge $100 a day for them. Last weekend, we took them in, I think we took 6 in.
that's security transport.
Yes,
Yeah, and we've
that's just periodic.
yeah, it looks like you've got 16 for the entire year. So that's not a heavy volume, but it obviously adds up.
They completely stopped during COVID and everything like that, but see if this start picking up possibly.
And we have no federal inmates, correct? Okay. Is the prison board on board with requesting this sort of cost analysis to run the juvenile program from the warden?
You need a motion, Chairman?
Let's do it formally. Yes, please.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded to conduct a cost analysis of the juvenile program that contemplates the money coming in or that has come in versus the cost to the county. And then after we receive this analysis, we can review it and then make a determination on the long-term viability of such a program. Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Warden, you know what to do. Received a request from a member of the religious community. They wanted to know if they could perform baptisms in the Lawrence County Jail. I obviously don't want to speak for the prison board. I wanted to bring it to the prison board to see if this was something that we would consider. But first, before we consider anything, I'd like to hear from the warden as to what your thoughts are on allowing outsiders to come in and perform baptisms.
Actually, Deputy Spielberg was handling that.
Oh, okay.
So-
Deputy Warden, I didn't know who got that one.
Yeah. We have different Bible study groups that are at the jail. And I received a request from one of the groups that and it's a female unit at this point in time, but I'm sure that if it's allowable, that it would expand to the other units as well. There's a course of study that the females on the unit had been going through, and they wanted to do a baptism. And I think that's just part of a closure, part of the whole process that they're going through, the course of study that they're going through. And the request was that it would be, if possible, if we could, a full immersion baptism They've done it before at different places, and I think it might have been in the Newcastle News probably a couple months back, one of the churches that did it, and this Bible study group is affiliated with the church. And we've talked about the different ways that it can be done, and it is feasible to do it, but I would say up to the prison board to what extent you wanted to do it. I think their biggest concern was that they have the opportunity to get baptized. If you wish to do something to that extent with them, that would be up to prison board, I guess.
Mr. Chairman, I guess I'll pose the question to you perhaps, since you're the only attorney in the room. Or maybe it's more appropriate we ask Solicitor Madore. But the concern I would have would be, are there any laws on the books or any case law or any regulations from the Commonwealth that would prohibit this? And if there are none, then I think I'd look favorably upon it. But I would be concerned if there is something at the state or federal level that precludes this from happening.
I think that this is a good question for Attorney Madore. I would say that, a incarcerated individual does have the right to exercise and practice their religion, so long as the practice of their religion does not interfere with jail operations. There's always that, security requirement that has to be maintained by the facility, but you really can't intervene or prohibit someone from practicing religion. This would require outsiders to come into the facility to perform basically a religious ceremony. At present, we do have outsiders that come into the facility to perform Bible study and other religious instruction. So I'm not certain. If they wanted to bring in a dunk tank, and that may be different. But if we're talking about, and maybe you know more of this, but if we're talking about, anointing, may run into a little bit of an issue with touching of inmates. Typically, you don't want outsiders to be able to touch or have physical contact. Or
I would just add that, as you know, I do come from the State Department of Corrections. We did do full immersion baptisms there in the chapel.
okay.
How would you do a full immersion? What type of a?
It's a tank we actually had.
I see. Okay. Again, just
And that was at the
Yeah.
state. You actually had the facilities and
Yes.
equipment for that at the state facility. Obviously, we don't have that here.
They have access to it, that they could bring it in, it would fit through the doorway. There's a spigot on the yard, in the yard area, that it could be done. We talked a little bit about the logistics of it. It can be done if it's something you want to consider. My concern was to make sure that that it was a course of study, that it didn't create sensationalism in the jail, and then people wanting to be baptized that are just there to get out of their cell. And these females right now have done a course of study, and I think they would be happy with any kind of a baptism. And if we could do that, the full immersion, the group that does come in, they do the full immersions, and they reassured us that they would take care of everything, and get the towels in there, and we would have the extra uniforms for them to change into, do it in an area where the other unit was locked down. It would certainly be a controlled atmosphere if we chose to allow that.
And certainly we don't have to allow it at the whim of
Right.
the organization or the prison. You could have scheduled dates so that
Yes.
everyone can plan for it, and there could be proper security, and have it in intervals, as opposed to, somebody calls on a Tuesday and says, let's do this on Thursday. That doesn't contemplate the existing schedule, which is something that we need to be cognizant of.
Is there other county jails doing it?
That I do not know. I don't know.
Is there a cost to this?
Unless the warden had to put additional guards there, but I can't imagine you would. You would call support, and you'd have support there. The organization would have to bring in their immersion tank. I'm sure there'd be a de minimis water cost, but that would probably
I mean, we're not talking overtime, things like that to perform the
Right,
service.
you'd have to
No,
schedule
no.
it when you had maximum manpower and when it worked for you.
Yes.
Probably,
I would come in if need be to
Go and
just,
supervise.
yes, absolutely.
my
Absolutely.
recommendation would be, if you're going to do this, Monday or Fridays are the days because you have less central court,
Yes,
you have less court hearings. That probably makes more sense. And not during the middle 2 weeks during trial term because you have inmates coming and going all the time. So certainly you can carve out the schedule if it's something the board would do. I would recommend to the board that let's first hear from Attorney Medor just to make sure we're on sound legal footing. And then I really think it's a warden call. If he wants to allow it and we don't have a problem with it, then that's his purview. Yes, sir.
If I may, and I think the sheriff had a good question, is it possible that some other counties might even have a written policy in place that we could look at?
Yes, sir.
Or if the Commonwealth has a policy, we could take a look at and perhaps replicate either in full or in part.
I'm sure the state has a policy, yeah. Okay, well then we'll pass this to Attorney Medor just to make sure we're on, solid legal ground. And then if he gives us the blessing, then the warden, I guess that'd be your call. If that warden sounds like you're in the running, so.
if we can move forward with it before another
Sooner
prison
rather
board
than
meeting,
later.
because the weather's changing and it will be a little chilly out there if there's.
Yeah, it's gonna be a cold water immersion.
Yeah. So,
I will send
if
an
that would
email
be, okay.
to Attorney Medor right after
Okay.
this meeting. Just tell him what the issue is, or I'll give him a call and see if he can just give us a yay, nay
Okay.
letter. If he were to say no, I would expect there to be some sort of legal justification as to why the answer is no. If we're running into some practicing tricky waters to navigate better. All right. Back to the live scan machine for a second. We do have to set a fee for the view. We don't have to, but we should set a fee for the use. I would recommend that we just keep it as the Elwood City rate, which was the $200. I know we could go higher, but we're just starting this program. I think we need to set a fee to cover some of the administrative costs that are going to be associated with this. And I would recommend that we set it at $200 when we begin using it, which obviously is not today. So I would make that motion to set the fee at $200. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. Any discussion?
Who's paying the fee? The inmate?
In May. Yeah. All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. So we'll set that at $200 for the fee. Last thing in terms of, two last things in terms of business. We did receive a preliminary letter from the Department of Corrections. It is not their final report, but because it was sent to the warden, and I believe everyone got a copy of this in their email. This is in response or in reference to the inspection that was done. The Department of Corrections, Pennsylvania Department of Corrections came into the Lawrence County facility. They did an inspection. They had some preliminary findings where there were some items that needed to be corrected. Those items were corrected. And this letter, upon review of the responses, plan of action, and support documentation demonstrating corrective action and substantial compliance with the initial inspection observations, the Office of County Inspections and Services has determined that the observations identified during the inspection have been adequately addressed for full compliance. They will be issuing a final full compliance letter to Lawrence County certifying that the jail is in full compliance with all of the state's recommendations based upon its inspection. Does anyone have any questions or comments about that letter? As soon as we get it, it will be distributed to all the members. Last thing, in terms of new business, it has been discussed that the jail is in need of a part-time maintenance apprentice position. We have two current maintenance staff, very experienced, but we kind of have to think a little bit about the future. And we need to begin the training pipeline. Doing maintenance at the jail is not like doing maintenance at the courthouse. There are a lot of restrictions to how to do things, and a lot of the jail equipment is unique to the facility. This was something that was discussed with the jail. They are pushing for this sooner rather than later, and we're gonna have to make a proposal to salary board. I'm, as district attorney, I'm an elected official, but not for the purposes of the prison board. I will be the prison board president along with the warden that will be submitting a convening request to the commissioners. Ultimately, the commissioners, along with the controller Preston Klein, will have to make that determination. And the salary recommendation is going to be in consideration of the contractual bargaining that has already been done by the commissioners. Certainly the proposal, we don't want to do anything that would reflect negatively upon any other department that is already negotiated. And the request is going to be for a part-time position at $15.50 an hour. We will put it in writing, submitted to the commissioners and to the controller. I will review with the controller before I submit it so that it's in the proper form that you gentlemen like, and we'll get that submitted. We don't really have to vote at this time. I just really wanted to give you a heads up, and then ultimately the commissioners make the determination of whether or not this occurs. I don't have anything else on new business. Does anyone else have anything? Well, if there's no new business, visitor comments. No visitor comments? Okay, we do have to go to executive session. So I would make a formal motion to adjourn to executive session.
I'll second and ask, is it for personnel matters or for what purpose, Mr.
It
Chair?
is for personal matters involving discipline.
I will second your motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. We will stop the meeting right now. And Commissioner, if you just want to flip that lid straight down.